Once upon a time, in the golden age of glam rock, there was a voice that could electrify arenas, a performer whose charisma lit up every stage he touched. Brian Connolly, the frontman of the legendary band Sweet. With hits like Ballroom Blitz, Fox on the Run, and Love is Like Oxygen, Brian wasn't just a singer, he was the face of a movement. But behind the glitter, the fame, and the flashing lights, lay a story of heartbreak, betrayal, and self-destruction. What happened to the man who once ruled the charts? How did one of rock's brightest stars fall into such tragic decline? This is the heartbreaking life and tragic death of Brian Connolly. Brian Connolly's story began in Hamilton, Scotland, in 1945, but from the start, life wasn't kind. Abandoned by his biological parents, Brian grew up in foster care and spent years searching for his true identity. Music became his only refuge, a place where he could escape the pain of his past. He moved to London as a young man and worked odd jobs while chasing his dream of becoming a singer. His big break came when he joined a struggling band called the Sweet Shop, later shortened to Sweet. No one could have predicted that this small band would soon become one of the biggest acts in glam rock history. By the early 1970s, Sweet exploded onto the scene with their flamboyant costumes, infectious melodies, and irresistible hooks. Songs like Little Willie and Blockbuster turned them into international sensations. Brian Connolly's voice, powerful, dynamic, and instantly recognizable, was the driving force behind their success. His golden hair and magnetic presence made him a teen idol, but beneath the glitter makeup, Brian was already beginning to feel the pressures of fame. He once said in an interview, "It's hard to know who loves you for you, and who loves you for the fame." Those words would later prove prophetic. Like many rock stars of the era, Brian became swept up in the wild lifestyle that came with success. Constant touring, parties, and heavy drinking became part of his daily routine. Bandmates later recalled how Brian's natural charisma made him the life of every party, but behind the smiles, he was struggling with deep insecurities and unresolved pain from his childhood. Alcohol soon became his escape, and as the band's fame grew, so did his dependency. The more successful Sweet became, the more Brian seemed to lose control. Friends and fans began to notice the cracks in the glittering facade. Before we dive deeper into this, take a moment to let us know where you're watching from tonight. Whether you're in New York, London, Sydney, or somewhere hidden between time zones. It's always incredible to see how our community spans the entire world. Type your city and country in the comments below, and let's see which corner of the globe has the most curious minds tonight. And if you're enjoying this story so far, don't forget to subscribe. In 1974, Brian's life took a devastating turn. After a night out in Staines, he was brutally attacked by several men outside a nightclub. The assault left him with nerve damage to his throat and permanently affected his vocal cords. For a singer, it was a cruel twist of fate. Though he tried to continue performing, his voice was never the same. The once soaring tenor became strained and fragile. For Brian, who defined himself through his voice, the injury was more than physical. It shattered his confidence and sent him spiraling deeper into depression and alcohol abuse. The attack marked a turning point, not only for Brian but also for Sweet. Tensions within the group began to rise as fame and creative differences drove a wedge between the bandmates. Brian's erratic behavior, fueled by alcohol, made recording sessions and tours increasingly difficult. Andy Scott, Steve Priest, and Mick Tucker tried to hold things together, but the unity that once defined the band began to crumble. Behind the scenes, management and record label conflicts only added to the pressure. By the late 1970s, Sweet was no longer the unstoppable force it once was, and Brian was losing his grip on everything he loved. By 1979, the inevitable happened. Brian Connolly left Sweet. Some say he was pushed out, others that he walked away, but either way, his departure marked the end of an era. Determined to prove himself, Brian launched a solo career, but it never reached the heights of his Sweet days. His health continued to decline, and his performances became increasingly unpredictable. Fans who came to see the glam rock hero of their youth were heartbroken to find a man struggling just to make it through a set. The sparkle that once defined Brian Connolly was fading before their eyes. The 1980s were especially cruel to Brian. His health deteriorated rapidly due to years of heavy drinking and neglect. He suffered multiple heart attacks, collapsed during performances, and became a shadow of his former self. Old friends tried to intervene, but Brian resisted help. "I've been through too much to stop now," he once said, a haunting reflection of his stubbornness and pain. He occasionally appeared at small clubs and nostalgic rock shows, but even then, his frail appearance shocked audiences. It was clear that the man who once dominated the charts was now battling for his life. Away from the stage, Brian's personal life was equally tragic. He had married Marilyn Walsh, and together they had a daughter, Nicola, whom he adored. But his addiction and erratic lifestyle strained his relationships beyond repair. Friends say he longed for normalcy, yet couldn't escape the chaos that fame had created. In his later years, Brian lived alone in Middlesex, surviving on limited income and fading memories of better days. He still dreamed of a comeback, of showing the world that he could rise again, but his body simply couldn't keep up with his spirit. By the early 1990s, Brian's health had reached a breaking point. Years of alcohol abuse and poor living conditions had left him frail, barely able to walk without assistance. Still, he continued to perform when he could, often to small but devoted crowds. There were moments when the old spark would return, a glimpse of the Brian Connolly who once commanded stadiums. But those moments were fleeting. Friends and family say that despite his struggles, Brian remained kind, humble, and grateful for the fans who never forgot him. He often said, "They're the reason I'm still here." On February 9, 1997, tragedy struck. Brian Connolly was found dead in his home in Slough, England. He was just 51 years old. The official cause of death was liver failure and multiple organ failure, the final result of years of alcohol abuse and ill health. His death shocked fans around the world, though those closest to him knew it was only a matter of time. His bandmates in Sweet paid tribute, calling him a brother in music and a true rock icon. John Lennon once said that rock stars burn out rather than fade away, and sadly, Brian embodied that truth all too well. Despite his tragic end, Brian Connolly's legacy continues to shine. Sweet's music remains a cornerstone of glam rock history, influencing generations of artists. His voice, even after the attack, carried a passion that few could match. Songs like Ballroom Blitz and Fox on the Run still light up classic rock stations, keeping his spirit alive. Bands like Def Leppard, The Darkness, and Motley Crue have all cited Sweet as a major influence. For fans, Brian will always be remembered not for his fall, but for the joy he brought through his music, that unmistakable energy that made the world dance. Today, more than 2 decades after his death, Brian Connolly remains a symbol of both the glory and the cost of fame. His story is a cautionary tale, a reminder that even the brightest stars can be consumed by the very light that makes them shine.